Hi guys, I'm Adam and I'm with RC Logger. Today I'm going to show you how to properly use your stock transmitter for your NovaX 350. The NovaX has a lot of different functions, so I'm going to try to cover the basics and get into some of the details with you as well. So for starters, what I have my stock transmitter. I've already got my AA batteries installed. I've got my NovaX here. As you can see, I've got my propellers removed because I'm going to show you some of the sequences, and safety first, that's what it comes down to, is keeping your fingers intact. So for starters, what I'm going to do is I'm going to power on my transmitter. We have a nice little boot menu that shows up. And then I'm also going to go ahead and power my NovaX. And when I do that, you can see that some more information gets added to the screen. And it basically lets me know that I have a good connection. I have a TX connection and an RX connection as well. What I want to do now is I want to show you how to access the telemetry side of things through your radio. The NovaX actually has data that's transferred back to the transmitter, and you can actually see that data move in real time. And in order to do that, all I have to do is press the up button, and I can toggle that menu screen that shows me relative information about my Nova. For example, the battery, the voltage it has, the distance, the height, the GPS positions, how many GPS signals I have, or satellite locks I have rather, and the return to home function, whether it's toggled on or off. And I also have a timer on there as well. The timer starts and stops when you turn the motors on and you turn the motors off. The next thing I want to move on to is I want to explain the controls and how they work. Basically, for starters, I'm going to show you how to start and stop the motors if you've calibrated your transmitter as a mode 2 transmitter. This is the throttle and the rudder side, and basically to start your motors, you're going to move the throttle down to the lower left and hold it there until the motors start, and return the stick back to the center. To shut the motors off, you're going to do the exact same process, down to the left and wait for the motors to stop. Now, when the NovaX is flying, and you're flying in either GPS position hold mode or altitude height hold mode, when you come in for a landing, if you hold the stick straight down, it'll shut the motors off automatically. However, if you're flying in unassisted flight mode, you're going to actually have to pull the stick to the lower left-hand corner to shut the motors off appropriately. The other controls are basically straightforward. This is your elevator and aileron. When you're flying the unit, if you have the nose facing away from you, you push the elevator stick forward, the NovaX will fly away from you. If you pull the stick back, the NovaX will come back towards you. If you move the rudder stick to the backwards here, I just want to make sure I do this right, to the right, the unit will go to the right. If you move the aileron stick to the left, the unit will go to the left. Again, this is all contingent upon if the nose is facing away from you. So I think that pretty much summarizes how to use the actual controls of the unit. Of course, this is the throttle side. With the motors running, you push the throttle stick up, the unit climbs, pull the stick back, the unit descends. Also, this is the rudder side, so if you push the stick to the right, the nose of the unit moves to the right, and if you push it to the left, the nose of the unit turns to the left. Next, I want to move on to the switches and how the switches toggle different flight features of the NovaX. The first most important switch is a 3-position switch located above the throttle. It's switch B, and basically what that switch does is it toggles between 3 different flight style configurations. The first default switch position is 1, and that is GPS position hold. Basically, we're using satellites. After the unit's in the air, the satellites are holding the unit still in the air, and the accelerometer and flight leveling characteristics are working with the satellites to keep it stationary as long as the sticks are in the center. Additionally, we're using a pressure sensor to keep the height predetermined. So as long as you're in the air and you let go of the sticks and you're in GPS position hold mode, the unit's going to stay put for you. There's one definite way of identifying whether or not you're in GPS position hold mode, and that's based on the LEDs of the Nova and what color they are. In GPS position hold, you can see that the LEDs are blue, and that lets you know. If you toggle the switch down to position 2, the LEDs are going to change green, and that's letting you know you've exited GPS position hold mode, but you're now in altitude height hold mode. So the barometric pressure sensor is keeping the unit at a predetermined height, but the satellites are no longer holding the unit in place. So if it's windy or you're giving it controls, the unit's going to move around. The final flight mode is what we call acro mode. Basically, this is unassisted. There's no barometric pressure sensor. There's no GPS position holds. This is kind of more of an aggressive flying, somebody that once you get comfortable with how the unit responds, you could try this mode out. There's no autonomy keeping the unit in any axis. So I think that pretty much covers the 3 different flight functions. The next switch I want to explain to you is switch C. It's another 3-position switch, and it's basically a bank control switch. What it does is when you toggle the switch with different positions, is it enables the unit to either respond faster or slower. In the default position 1, this is called aerial photo mode. Basically, when you give a lot of control input, you don't get a lot of control response from the unit. It's real slow and docile. It's perfect for if you're attaching a camera gimbal or you're trying to get smooth aerial footage for not creating overreactions. The next position, switch position 2, is sport mode. Basically, you probably wouldn't want to fly with this particular mode if you have a camera gimbal attached or your GoPro attached, because the response is going to be very aggressive. Sport mode is actually perfect for just doing that sport flying you're doing in your backyard with no cameras attached. It really opens up the NovaX and lets it respond aggressively to your control inputs. The final switch assignment is an assignable programmable switch via our app iControl. So you would basically download the app, you would calibrate how you want the unit to fly, how aggressive you want it to bank, how fast you want it to ascend or descend, and then you would store that as position 3 through the app for your NovaX. I think that pretty much covers that particular switch, and I want to move on to the most important switch, which is the return to home switch. Basically, if you get into an issue or you're done flying or you want the unit to come back to you, you can't see it or whatever purpose, you can flip this switch. The LED will automatically change to white flashing on the NovaX, and you will hear a double beep when the unit's flying. Basically, that lets you know that the NovaX has begun its automated return to home sequence. And the screen on the transmitter will actually show you the different steps of the process as it returns to home and land at your feet. Let's move over to switch A. Switch A is our retract switch. Retracts are an optional accessory and they'll be available shortly. Probably by the time you're watching this video, you'll be able to purchase them. Basically, this is the retract toggle switch. So when you flip this, the retractable gear are going to fold up on the NovaX, and when you flip it again, they're going to fold down. So I think that pretty much covers all of our switch assignments. Obviously, we have a couple knobs up here, fully programmable. When you're using your gimbal, you can actually use this to tilt your camera, and you can assign these knobs for various functions as well. Outside of that, I think we pretty much covered everything. Or you can visit our website, rclogger.com, and check out the forums and ask us questions there.